maybe I get both of you your thoughts on this talking point that I've heard numerous times this week, is that it really wasn't about the sexual conduct of the people that Epstein was involved with. It's the fact that there were notes taken, tapes taken, and all of this incriminating evidence was sold to the highest bidder. So it was more of an intelligence game, using young females and young women, young girls as bait. And to me, that's even more frightening, that than there was a purpose to it all along, not just to act like the Emperor Caligula on a weekend holiday, which is, I mean, I swear to God, you read some of the stuff in the in these files, it's enough to make the Roman gods blush. I mean, some of the shit that went on is just, you know, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. But your thoughts, both of you, I guess, and we'll start with you, Mark. On, do you think that there was an impetus behind this to incriminate and sell the information, that was the goal the entire time, or it was just happenstance that it went that way?
From the point of what Epstein and others were engaged in, or with respect to the records themselves?
The records themselves being kept.
Oh, I don't know. I think, I mean, we're starting to see inconsistent information even coming out of the files about what the views of the FBI and prosecutors and going after. I mean, I'm far more interested, and I guess you can't, not harping on, but adding on to note what Nolan said about some of what's, as he's searching through the records and the names and the redactions, yet of the naked images that were not redacted of young women. And I haven't heard yet of any of them being identified to know if even some of those were underage versus just had their privacy violated of being of age. But I'm far more interested in the claims that there's at least 25 other people out there who have, not possible suspects, not individuals who possibly did something wrong, but who entered into non-disclosure settlement agreements with the U.S. government about whatever the conduct was. And all I can say about that is, in the civil context where I live, of civil litigation, the Justice Department has made clear to me multiple times over the years that the official policy is no confidentiality with respect to settlement agreements that the United States government enters into, that they feel transparency, public availability is key. Now, this was not a Trump thing, because this wasn't the Trump administration that alleged. I mean, maybe it was in the first Trump administration. I presume this is the Bush, Obama, maybe Trump administrations that enter into these agreements. You got to really question, all right, where are those documents? Right. What's the subject of those? And I imagine you'll see some news organizations suing for those under the First Amendment, and maybe even members of Congress. The rest of it, we've seen things about, were these Russian operations, and, or was Epstein Mossad with the Israelis, or, I mean, there's all sorts of, tabloid-like allegations about intelligence connections, which, to be honest, wouldn't surprise me that there are intel connections, because anybody at that level financially and who travels internationally is very likely to have some connections to intelligence operations of some country, maybe multiple countries.
Yeah. Nolan, you can speak to that.
Yeah, I agree with Mark on this, that there's pieces of all those different theories about a sex operation being part, or the sex being part of a blackmail operation. And there are connections to intelligence all throughout. Ehud Barak and Epstein have a lot of communication in there. He's also talking with members of the CIA as well. So those connections are well known, but does it all fit together, I think, is a question. I don't think there's enough in the documents to 100% say that's true. But yeah, again, there's a lot of indications that is the case. And I think in terms of Epstein, whether or not it was part of this larger blackmail operation, we also have to remember that we're still missing millions of documents. And one of the things in the Epstein Transparency Act was that they gave the DOJ the ability to redact any content that's associated, I think the words are like violence and torture. And there are a lot of indications in the emails that there are videos of violence and torture that Epstein received. And if so, those would be held back by the government. And a lot of us think the only reason you would put that in the Epstein Transparency Act is if you know content about violence and torture exists. So we may not even know the extent of a lot of this stuff. So not only redacting people who are co-conspirators, but also some of the crimes they did as well. And as Mark said, the true I think sad part of all that is we don't know who these criminals are or the extent to what they did or how they're connected, but we know a lot, including naked private images of the survivors who are supposed to be the people that this act is trying to serve.